Well, hello there and welcome. This is Story U Talk Radio, and I am your host, Coach Debbie. I'm here in Seattle, Washington, and my whole job is to help you write your books, your blogs, your brands, and to really be expressive with your voice. I want to see you out in the world sharing what is on your mind. And I know we didn't come out of the womb like this. We had to study. We had to pay attention to our own experiences. We had to think about what is it that we really want to say in the world. And the longer I live, the longer I want to find those who are also expressing themselves authentically and courageously. So today I am going to bring someone to you that, lucky me, it was a very lucky day for me. I was doing a search on YouTube. I love to go there for just about anything. I mean, whether it's cooking, finding out about health, finding out about travel, finding out about, the little pain in your shoulder, anything at all. If you go to YouTube, somebody knows. And I put in a little search question and went down a little rabbit hole, and I found myself on a channel called Sweat Talk. And there was Chad Lizenby, and Chad was just having himself this really honest conversation. I noticed right away he's in the Pacific Northwest. And I think he was talking about, what does it take to be a man of integrity? Something along those lines. Had my full attention. And I thought, wow, I want to know more about him. Followed him like I do with so many other people. Decided it's time to subscribe. Let's see what's going on here. And one day he and his wife did a live. They were celebrating the fact that in a very short period of time, he was coming up really, really close to 100,000 subscribers. And that is something to celebrate on YouTube, especially for those of you that have a channel and you know what that's like. You know what kind of energy goes into getting that number of subscribers. But part of it happened because he made a really wise choice about his branding. He had been offering advice for health and as a mechanic, but he started to notice a little something about himself. And I'm going to read this to you straight from his YouTube page. He was noticing that he had a passion and a calling that went beyond his original branding ideas. He says here, I'm here to help you realize your potential. He talks about the fact that he wants to encourage those who need it the most. He says, I'm here to provide tools and insights to make life's journey smoother. And whether we do this through sharing content or, he says, even just with some practical advice, it is his mission to help you become 1% better every day. And isn't that the sort of person you want to know? It is for me. I think in a lot of ways that's the definition of a really good friend. Someone that just wants to help you be 1% better every day. Just for the heck of it. Because you're groovy too. So when I think about my brand and how I'm here to help people write their books, get their blogs out in the world, monetize those blogs, I thought, Chad would be a great person to invite to the show. If you're on my newsletter list, and I sure hope you are, all you got to do is go over to CoachDebbie.com. You will see that you can sign up and be part of the inner circle. You can get notifications about any of my classes. You can sign up for coaching, group coaching, all kinds of things available to you. That's at CoachDebby.com, and Debbie is spelled Debby, CoachDebby.com. So what I would like to do, in just a minute, I'm going to bring Chad onto the show for you here. I just want to encourage you. You're going to hear questions that we're talking about. Kind of like to think of it when I have a guest on the show. It's kind of like a fireside chat, but we know you're here, and we want to answer any questions that come up for you. So feel free to call in. We got the phones live, available, up and running. You can call 1-888-298-5569. You will go straight into the switchboard, I like to call it. Eric will take your call. He'll get you on the air, and Chad and I can answer your question. Don't call me, okay? If you know my number, don't call me. It's going to distract me. But you're welcome to write to me. And that is Debbie at CoachDebby.com. And Debbie is Debby. So without further ado, I want to welcome Chad to the show. Hey there, Chad. Thanks for being with me today.
Hey, Debbie. Thanks for having me on your show. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'm really, really glad you're here. I think of you as that man that gets outside, walks in the woods, puts that camera in front of him, and you probably are approached by several people while you are on your journey. What I really am curious about is, as a content creator, what do you feel you have set out to do? Who is it you want to reach? Just tell us a little bit about you.
I think it goes back to starting with my why, right? When when you get onto social media and you start scrolling around and roaming around on social media, you see a lot of people that are suffering from debilitating mental issues. They're suffering from depression and and oftentimes people don't know or they don't realize that they know how to get out of the rut that they're stuck in and how to navigate through this thing that we call life. You know what?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's I'm just I got to the point where I got sick and tired of seeing the world struggle, and I've been on this journey my entire life of personal development. And back in my younger years, all my friends they were buying DVDs for movies or whatever, and I was going out and I was buying Tony Robbins tapes, right?
Right on.
Cassette tapes, so it's just always been something that I've been into and something that I've had a passion for.
Mm-hmm.
And so being sick and tired, I've suffered from debilitating mental issues myself, and I know what it's taken for me to get through all of those complications and all of those difficulties, and I just want to be able to offer my perspective on and offer some sort of guidance, if you will, to try to help other people navigate through, what it is that we call life. And I thought maybe I had something that I could offer,
And
the
you do.
world. And so well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. And so, I just one day just pressed record, you know?
You know,
So
that's so
it just,
wonderful that that's exactly where it started. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that is really wonderful that that's where it started, with the idea of maybe I've got something to offer, and maybe if I just press record, not if I set up a big fancy studio, not if I hire out at $5,000 an hour or something like that, but what if I press record and that allows me to be helpful? That's all we got to do. And somehow it seems like we've gotten away from the basics of this is all we have to do. Has that been your experience too?
Mhm.
That thought of, we're not ready yet, but I want to be ready. I want to just press record and go.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It goes, you think about analysis paralysis, and we're constantly seeking perfection because we think that everything has to be perfect before we press record or before we start anything really. We set out on a journey for any sort of a project, and we never actually get started, and we never finalize any sort of a project because we're constantly thinking that everything has to be perfect. The scenario has to be perfect. The situation, the weather, the tools, the environment, like everything has to be perfect. And so it prevents us from ever taking action and setting out and achieving the goals and the hard things that we find important for ourselves. So, ultimately it's just you have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to to put aside your fear of other people's judgments and just start your journey and go and do what you think is right and do what it is that you want to do, regardless of anybody else's opinions or feelings of what it is that you're doing.
Yeah,
I've spoke to a lot of my subscribers, a lot of viewers that's one of the things that they're afraid of the most that has prevented them from just starting is they'll tell other people their plans or whatever of what it is that they want to do, what it is they're trying to accomplish, and somebody's going to crap all over their hopes or their aspirations before they ever got started, and that just defeats you from the word go. And then we think about how, like, what is it that people are going to say about us, and what if, just what if, like, we can what if scenario ourselves, to death, right? Because we will sit there and think about it and think about it and just analyze over it and analyze, and it turns out that the perfection, in my opinion, is it's going to be a killer of progress,
it is
you know?
every time. Every time, because one of the titles I thought would be applicable for the show is just getting comfortable in our own skin. But we tend to think I can't do a thing until I am comfortable, and nothing's gonna save us from our feelings. They're these things that pass by us, they pass through us, but they are not us. And it took me so long to know that. I've shared the story here a few times, if not more than a few times, that we all have something where we think we can rely on it. Some men think, well, I can rely on being strong, or some women think I can rely on being pretty. The thing I always relied on was I'm smart. I would think that I'm smart. I have a high IQ. I can learn fast. I can study well. I'm smart. I was in college, early days of college, and I had to give a speech, and being smart didn't save me. I thought I was going to pass out dead in front of those kids. I was going to have a heart attack right there in front of the class. And it just didn't save me because somehow I thought my smarts were going to get me through talking. It would help me be comfortable. Nothing helps you be comfortable when you're anxious except doing something again and again and again. And like you said, being 1% better every single day. I think that is just a real telltale commitment for a lot of people. When I watch you take your camera out into the woods, sometimes I'm just curious, like, what goes on in your mind that helps you stay consistent with the idea of getting comfortable in your skin and just saying, I'm in this. I'm going to do this weekly. What are things you have to do in your own mind to keep that consistency going?
Well, originally when I first started uploading content, I found that once I got my blood pumping and I got my blood elevated after a workout or going for a hike or whatever, that my clarity of thought, it just seemed to be it seemed to have a compounding effect on on how, when my body begins to release those endorphins. And I found that, like the whole hiking out in the woods and making my videos, it ended up being by mistake. It actually ended up being on accident because
Oh,
I didn't know what direction my channel was going to go. I didn't know how I was going to begin to edit the videos. But then I suffered from an injury, and the only thing that I could do was go for a hike and go for a walk. And so I ended up just going out in the middle of the woods, and before I start, I like to meditate. I like to clear my mind and get over the anxiety because, even after making over 200 videos and reaching, almost 150,000 subscribers now, I still suffer from anxiety when I go out there to make these videos to this day.
mm-hmm.
So sitting down and meditating and just doing a little bit of breath work and calming my mind and slowing down my heart rate before I get started. And then just being out in nature and breathing in, the fresh pine scent and the organic smells and the fresh oxygen that's being produced from the environment. And, because I'm new to the Pacific Northwest. I've only
Yeah.
been up here for 2 years. And
Welcome.
but I've always had love for the forest. I've always dreamt of living up here, and I used to go to northern Arizona whenever I got an opportunity to, because I was in southern Arizona, and and every time I found myself in the forest, and it's always been a calling for me, and it just kind of opens up my eyes every time I go there. And so surrounding myself in an environment that I love, something in an environment that I'm passionate about, and being able to clear my thoughts and clear my mind I have found that it just makes it that much easier to step outside of my comfort zone and get into a state of flow.
Yeah.
Being in that state of flow, I think it's extremely important. I'm not much of a writer. I have to sit down and I have to think about something over and over and over and read it over and over. So it takes me a really long time to write, but something that I've found that I'm pretty good at, I think, is speaking. I can get my story across. I can get my thoughts. I've developed the ability to put my thoughts into words, through voice rather than writing, you know.
You really have. You really have. And I just feel like when I watch your videos, and for the listeners again, his channel is called Sweat Talk with Chad Lizenby. CHAD.
It's,
Chad. No, it's not.
no, the channel is just Chad Lizenby. No,
Oh, what do I know? Well, somehow, somewhere in there, you do, say this is Sweat Talk. So I think I assumed that the channel was called that.
yes, ma'am.
Anyway, it's a beautiful thing. So head on over there to YouTube. Listenbee is Lisonbee, and you will find Chad and his lovely wife. She is not in most of the videos, but she is on the live recordings that they have done in celebration, and they're all wonderful. You get help with whatever topic you might be going through right now or that's coming up for you. It's about real life living. So, my friends, we got to take a quick commercial break right here. But when we come back, a little more about getting comfortable in your own skin. Stay tuned. Story U Talk Radio. I am your host, Coach Debbie, and I am delighted that you have reserved this hour to spend with me. I am bringing you Chad Lizenby today. I found his channel on YouTube one day when I was doing a little Google search, and he had some amazing advice to offer me. And I found the more I went back, the more there he was, this very practical, very thoughtful person who was called to help people to think about ideas. And they're ideas that you and I deal with every day. Like, should I stay in my job or should I leave my job? How might I grow my wealth? What might I do to be a proud parent? These questions that we think about all the time, and we'd like to have a friend to bounce these things off of. Chad goes out into the woods and he talks into his phone and he makes amazing videos. What we want to do today is open up the conversation that you can get comfortable in your own skin. You can express yourself either through writing or speaking. Chad and I have very different brands. I come to the radio show. I do a lot of writing. I help people with their books and their blogs. Chad goes out to the Pacific Northwest, puts on his camera, starts recording. He's eloquent, he's thoughtful, he's personable, he's available. We have a similar calling, and yet we're doing it very differently. And that's one of the beautiful things about having your own self expression. We all have it. So, how are you channeling yours? I want to read a question that came in today, and this is from Natalie. And she says, I love following your blog, but what I have noticed is that if I can't go and write a long blog, I feel like it's not worthy of my time. Now you have someone who goes outside and can speak and make videos. Well, that's even more beyond me. But this idea that you can actually get comfortable in your skin over time, how much time would you say that takes? And is there anything you need to do to stick with it? To stick with it. That's a really good question. Do you want to speak to that at all, Chad? This idea of course, it's going to take time to build our brand, but is there anything that you have to do in order to tell yourself, yeah, I'm sticking with this. I'm going the long haul.
Yeah, like I was saying, like I said just a little bit ago, is it even after making a couple hundred videos, that I still get uncomfortable out there. I'm still not entirely comfortable doing that, and ultimately, I personally, I set a goal, and my goal was I was going to make and upload a video every day for 90 days in the beginning.
Ah,
And I was just going to go with it. I was going to make it work. I was going to make it happen regardless. And and so I did. And I ended up putting it took a lot of struggle, and it, it took me putting aside my fear of judgments from others, and
yeah.
in order to accomplish that goal. And the thing is you have to. I had to realize, and I had to figure out what was most important to me. What was my why, and what exactly was I trying to achieve out of accomplishing that goal? What was my motivating factor?
Yeah.
And ultimately, I've spent my entire life wanting to help people. Like that's my ultimate goal, is wanting to help people. And so so ultimately, it all takes practice.
Mm-hmm.
It all takes practice. And if you're having a difficult time being comfortable in your own skin, the only solution that in my eyes is to get out there and just do it. Not don't try it. I don't like that word try. Replace that word try with do. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this, and commit to yourself. Commit to yourself that you are going to do it and not try it. Because when you say the word try, then it almost gives you an out. It almost gives you the thought process of it's okay if this doesn't work out. But when you commit and you tell yourself that you're going to do it, then it doesn't give you a plan B. And that commitment, as long as you follow through with it, you will achieve what it is that you want to achieve, whatever it is that you set out to achieve.
It really is interesting how that works. I I'm with you 100%. And Natalie, I think you are getting some really good advice here from Chad. Can you bite off like a 90-day goal so you're leaving out the idea of I'm going to try. Instead, you're stepping into the idea that this is what I'm committing to for the next 90 days. I often commit to, or I think I do, I commit to like a health goal or a an eating goal. And I say, okay, for the next 30 days, I won't have any sugar. And on day 5, you see me running as fast as I can to, my favorite restaurant for a milkshake because I wasn't really committed. And I wouldn't even say I was trying to be committed. I would say I set up something that seemed so grand and I would feel so good about myself if I reached the goal. But 4 days in, I'm not happy without that thing I'm trying to give up. The cool thing about self expression is you're not giving up something, you're going into something new. You're going into trusting yourself that you will be expressive. You're not laying down one thing so you can pick this up. You're merely picking it up. And if you can, do it for the love of it. You know, do it because something inside of you says, I want to be that person that makes 15-minute videos. I want to be that person that writes a full-length blog. I want to be that person that self-publishes in the next year. And that way you're not laying something down in order to pick up your new identity. You're just saying, I think that new identity would be really good on me. And I'm committed to giving it a try. Natalie, I hope that has been helpful to you. And I do want to encourage you to subscribe to Chad's channel and to make sure you go over to CoachDebbie.com and sign up for the newsletter. Would love to hear more from you. I'm curious also, Chad, just about how this channel has possibly surprised you as you've heard from some of your most engaged people. And look, I need to put on my glasses. I can't even read the question I want for you. But I wanted to know if there were any topics that people found most engaging, and was that in any way surprising to you or beneficial to you, engaging with your listeners in that way?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Excuse me. My best performing video so far to date is Life Really Begins After 40. And one of the things that I found extremely surprising is that the majority of my viewers, when I go in and look at my analytics, are going to be 40 plus.
Mm.
YouTube has I don't know if you want to call it a stigma, but
Mm-hmm.
there's people believe that the only people that are on YouTube are going to be, in their 20s and their teens or whatever. And in my experience, that's not the case at all. And so one of the things that has definitely surprised me is it's more like my peers are wanting. it's almost like my own peers, the people of my age, the people of my generation are my number one viewers, and they're coming in droves, and people my own age are looking up to me, and they're understanding, they're teaching me that I actually do have a voice. I do have the ability to help somebody get through a difficult situation. You know, when you first start something like this, whether it's a vlog or a blog or whatever the case may be, something that seems people don't really take into consideration or talk about much is imposter syndrome.
Yep.
And people when they hear that term imposter syndrome, they think that imposter syndrome means that they are being an imposter, or that they think that people are seeing them as an imposter, and imposter syndrome is it's simply you feel like an imposter. You feel like you don't have anything to contribute. And so one of the battles that I've had to overcome myself is fighting that imposter syndrome, and knowing and learning that that I do have a story, and people do want to hear my story. And I feel the same way about everybody. I feel that the world needs to hear your story. I feel that that we all have a story to tell. And
Oh, yeah.
the only difference, I guess, is the avenue in which we use to tell that story.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. And Chad, there are so many people. Oh my goodness. I really deal with this with my authors who say, is anybody going to care that this is just what I went through? And I'm like, you went through a divorce and you moved to the other side of the globe. Do you think you're the only person in the world that's ever gone through a divorce and relocated? I promise you, you're one of millions, and it hurt, and it's worthy of sharing. How'd you do it? Why'd you do what you did when you did, to help others know whatever we're going through, we are having an authentic experience. And we're here to share, not to isolate and hole up. And I think for a lot of people, and I wonder if this was so for you, is wondering how much to share and how vulnerable to be, and if it will even matter. Will my story even matter if I dig in a little deeper and get a little more vulnerable? Did you deal with any of that at all while you were starting out?
oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's and even still, that's something that I deal with is is the uncertainty, but something that I've realized while I watch other channels and other creators that are somewhat in the same niche or genre, whatever you want to call it, is I see a lot of complaining.
Ah,
So I will see somebody, they will turn on their camera, they'll start recording, and all they do is complain. They complain. And 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 the thing is there people will watch people will watch those videos because it will give them a sense of I'm not alone. There's somebody else out there that feels the same way that I do. But the issue that I see with that is it doesn't offer any sort of a solution. All it does is it helps keep us in the state of the perpetual woe is me, or or the victim mentality, and that's not a good place to be. It might feel comfortable, but when we're stuck in our own head, that is an absolutely terrible place for all of us to be. So
right.
so that that's something that has set me aside, I think, is I've noticed, when I watch other people's videos, that what I don't like about their videos, and I try to implement those as often as I possibly can because the topics that I talk about on my channel oftentimes are extremely difficult topics and they're extremely negative topics. And so turning those topics into something that's going to be positive with a positive message on a negative topic, it's I've found that it's extremely difficult, but it's really resonating with people and people are really enjoying the constructive criticism or the positive take on a negative situation that essentially all of us will face at some point in our lives.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It is the easy way out to have a whole brand be built on complaining. There are plenty of people that have 10 million followers and a big studio set up, and what do? They sit down with their best buddy, and for 2.5 hours they rant and rave on something. What about what about contributing to how we feel in the world and how we can be more community oriented? I tell you, that's exactly what Chad is up to with his channel. I want you to check him out. It's Chad Lizenby, Lisonbee, and he coins each talk as sweat talk. He's out there in the Pacific Northwest. He's got his phone and he's giving you a topic straight. It's straight from his heart. It's unedited. It's beautiful. I'm completely addicted to his show. I look forward to the evening when I say I'm off duty and I go ahead and I click on one of his videos and sometimes two. Sometimes I just binge out. I really feel like I am part of something because he took the chance to say, there's a lot on people's minds, and I want to be here and help everyone have a better day than they had yesterday. That's a really, really beautiful thing to be dedicated to. So, my friends, listen, we got to take one more break here. When we come back, just a little bit more about getting comfy in your own skin and saying your thoughts out loud. We'll be right back. Back to Story U Talk Radio. I'm your host, Coach Debbie, and I am here to help you get more comfortable in your own skin and express yourself. I've brought on a new friend, Chad, who is just killing it over there on YouTube. About 1,000 more people every day say, yes, I want to follow you. I want to subscribe. I want to be here. I want to do things that help me be better in my day. And they get their inspiration from Chad. This is a station that I had some question one day, and I Googled it, and it led to one thing and another thing. And the next thing you know, I'm on Chad's channel, and I'm like, I like this guy. He's just an honest, interested guy that wants to make the world a little bit better, and he's doing it. He's doing it. He's taking his camera outside. He's going for a walk in the I recognized the terrain right away. I thought he's here in the Pacific Northwest, and he's making a difference. And you know what, friends? There's so many ways in which we're all called at different times in our life to just be a little more honest, a little more available, a little more into our listening skills so we can make a difference for others. And it requires that we turn down the volume of the idea that maybe we're an imposter. Maybe if we were going to do it well, we would have done it long ago. And it really asks us to say, but what's going on right now? How might I make a difference right now? What if I set a 90-day goal to just commit, to just step in, to just see what might I do for this big, big round globe that we're all spinning around on? I've prepared a couple questions to ask Chad today. One of them I really want to know about are just some small ways or maybe even some big ways that opportunity is now coming to you, Chad, that maybe you hadn't thought about when you started out with your channel.
Is a lot of people they'll I get a lot of requests for people to coach for me to coach them. I get a lot of requests for sponsorship deals. I a lot of doors have opened for me as far as the ease or the ability to make money. But that's not why I started out to do this.
Right.
So far, I haven't taken on any sponsorships. And I'm not really offering any sort of a coaching program because I don't know. That's one of the things that I still deal with imposter syndrome instead of just embracing the fact of being a beginner. Like that's one of the reasons why I hate that term until you make it is because I think that just reinforces the belief that that you are an imposter and that kind of drives home that uh, the imposter feeling because
Did you
it
say
prevents me
there? I
from
didn't I didn't
it.
quite hear you. I'm so sorry. Did you say there that you didn't like the term fake it till you make it because faking it drives home being an imposter? Is that what you said?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Because the strength and the power that's in our words that we use, right? We
Yes.
don't realize the power of the words that we use in something along the line, fake it till you make it. Like it can be extremely detrimental to the way that we see that. Because if you think that you're faking something, then how are you actually going to make it? You
Right.
know what I mean? So instead of faking it till you make it, just embrace the fact that you're a beginner. But the problem with like the coaching, going back to that is dealing with that imposter syndrome, the feeling, but then also not being able to fear of not being able to commit the true time and not being able to dedicate what what it actually deserves.
Mm.
Because if people are going to come to me and they're going to want me to coach them, then they deserve every bit of me. And unfortunately, at this point in my life, I'm not able to actually commit to that. I'm not able to offer that type of a service. But then is never in a million years did I think that my channel would grow as fast as it has to the size that it has, right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking, maybe in 5 years I could hit 100,000 subscribers, not 4 months, right? So everything has just happened and escalated so fast that I haven't really even known what direction to take it. What direction to take my brand and it's just all happened so fast that I have to be able to step back and embrace what it is that I have in front of me. And I have to step back and think about, what is my next move going to be instead of trying to rush into things and rushing into to all of the doors that have opened for me because of the large following that I have now, the good sized following and the exposure that I have. Just like you, I never thought that I would be on a talk radio show. You
Mm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of it's surreal and it's an absolute honor. It's an absolute honor and I feel privileged that people want to hear my voice. And I feel privileged that I can be here in your presence as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for saying that. At the same time, I really hope that anytime any of us are invited to something that surprises us or delights us, it's because there is a heartbeat in the world that most of us are attracted to, but we're just not sure if we get to really believe in it. There's so much challenge in the world. There's so much to deal with. Do we have the right to believe that there's more good than there is the other? And so when an invitation comes along, even if it's one that we decide we don't know that we're aligned with at this moment, you had said that there's some sponsors that have reached out to you, and you haven't accepted their ideas right now. I mean, I think that's really smart for a person to say, I didn't imagine so much growth so quickly. And yet, because I've grown so quickly, I'm not going to put myself in a place to have growing pains. I'm not going to put myself in a place where I have to keep up with every single offer. At the same time, there might be an offer or two that come along that help us, Chad, me, the listeners, anyone, that help us realize what we're doing matters. And the reason we're doing it is because we feel called to. It's not that, I mean, I'm not facing corporal punishment if I don't show up for a Thursday show. I'm also not being paid $1 million a show. I'm somewhere very in between around a calling, and I know Chad is as well. And for so many of us, there is that point. It's that point, we would say it's at the end of the day, where we all just want to feel fulfilled. And we look at what we're doing. What is our work? And I'm just curious, Chad, what is it that brings you the most fulfillment at the end of the day, that you look back on and you say, I'm glad I showed up for another day on my channel?
You know, the thing that brings me the most fulfillment is when I hear people, when I get the comments, and I hear that I've been able to help somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, I've been able to help make sometimes, the struggles that we'll all face a little bit easier to deal with. Because, yeah, I mean, growing up for me, I'm sure you as well. There was never, obviously we didn't have YouTube, and and there was never, we didn't have an avenue to escape, or we didn't have anybody out there that could offer us any sort of a perspective on for any problem that we might be experiencing throughout our lives.
No
So
way.
so when I hear that I'm able to offer that to somebody, and help guide or direct, and just offer a different way, a different perspective to shift their paradigm, in order to make coping, or dealing with the difficulties in life, that much easier, man. It fills me up inside when I hear that. I nothing is more prideful to me than knowing that I'm able to help another human being, just have a wonderful day, or have a moment of happiness, a
Yeah.
moment of satisfaction, where they're not stuck in their own head, and they're not dealing with the mental struggles that they're going to deal with, or that a lot of people are struggling with on a daily basis. And I think it's just an absolute tragedy that how many people are suffering from mental illness without any sort of avenue, or any direction on how to deal with these difficult situations.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I love it. I love knowing that people are finding value, and they're able to get ahead, or they're able to get out of the rut that they're stuck in.
Yes.
Uh, it's
Yes.
it's overwhelming.
You're providing the hope of a way out. And you're right. There are so many of us that grew up without YouTube. Boy, what I wouldn't have given for YouTube to have been around. and to really know that it's just one of the many, many ways that we can be public and say, you're not in this alone. Getting comfortable in your life is tricky. Getting comfortable in your own skin requires a certain dedication, daily dedication. It doesn't just happen. You dedicate yourself to knowing yourself. And you have done such a great job with your channel, Chad. I really applaud you. I'm so happy that you came on the show today. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Debbie. Thank you for having me. I'm ecstatic that you invited me.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'll have you back. I'll have you back for sure. I want to let the listeners know
Awesome.
that if you are thinking it is time for you to get more expressive, none of this faking it till you make it. Chad's against it. I'm against it. We want you to get into your authentic voice, whether you're writing it down or you're recording it, whether you're putting it into a blog or a book or a script or a love letter or anything else. We want your real voice to come through. You're not an imposter by following some calling that allows you to be more expressive. Head on over to my website, CoachDebbie.com. I'm the only one that answers any of the mail that comes through there. Debbie is spelled Debby, CoachDebbie.com. I love bringing guests like Chad to you to inspire you. I also often use this space as my classroom. And on any given day, I am happy to hear what sort of topics would be most supportive to you. Just head on over to CoachDebbie.com, click on Connect, and send me a note anytime. My friends, I'm always in your court. I'm here every Thursday live to give you a new show. And until then, namaste.